You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
All right, it's episode 29, Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. This is Matt Lowe, obviously. I'm here with Jessica Salaji, and we have a new person joining us this week. Dave Roberts, you may remember Dr. Cool from a couple weeks ago when Jessica headed out on vacation. How y'all doing this evening?
Woo!
Doing great. Thank you, Matthew.
I feel like we're on The Price is Right. Come on down over here. And Dave's like, I'll take, podcast for 1,000, Alex. You have a very game show hosty voice.
I'll take it.
Oh, so how's y'all's week been?
It's a very, I'm all out of sort.
I'm on the right side of the grass, and things are good.
Right. I'm just busy with work. I'm excited that hunting season is near.
Dove season started on Saturday.
It did.
Did you dove shoot?
I did not. I didn't. What did I do?
Do you call the dove peasant food too?
No, I like dove. It's also. Have you ever eaten dove?
Me?
Yeah.
A long time ago.
So, like the breast off of a dove is, I don't know, it's like the size of your thumb, right? So you need a metric ton of them to just make a meal. But, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 of them is a pretty decent snack. So, and that's usually what happens is I'll kill enough for a snack and then go kill something bigger.
Well, my friends on the Big Green Egg Forum have been posting up their pictures of the doves on their eggs.
There's a Big Green Egg Forum? That doesn't shock me.
It's fat guy porn.
Right.
I went dove hunting once.
Yeah, how'd you do?
I cried. I was so upset.
Why?
Because doves are, they're like, they're pretty close to a pet, I was just upset. I come from a family of hunters. It was just a bad move. Bad idea on their part.
Did you shoot it?
I shot some things in the air. Everyone was shooting all at once. I don't know which ones were mine, but when they all fell to the ground, I was pretty bummed.
You killed them all.
Yeah. It's okay. Not every hobby is for everyone.
No, I agree.
All right.
Well, perfect. No awkward pauses with the new guy. That's great. Now, is there a difference between the doves you're shooting out in the field and what I see in my backyard?
No.
So
No, those are all mourning doves, and interestingly enough, related to the pigeon.
Where do you find a turtle dove?
in a partridge tree?
Right? In a Christmas song? I don't know. Are turtle doves even real things?
What kind of dove do you find at church?
What do you mean? Oh, like those white doves?
Bleach.
So a turtle dove is European.
I see that. All right.
Did any of you see the It's Hack ad from the Georgia Democrats on Kemp this week?
I read the article about it. I didn't watch the ad. I'd say I read the article. I read your article about it.
Yeah, I saw the YouTube of the ad, and it certainly gives Kemp more credit for what he does as Secretary of State than I ever have. That he is sitting in his office personally approving every professional license.
Right. Well, and I thought it was particularly ridiculous just because we have these appointed boards, which the appointees come from all over the place, including the legislature and the lieutenant governor and the governor, and they're the ones that are in charge of sanctioning and investigating and taking the complaints of people who are license holders, because there's a process in place for due process. And if Kemp were to bypass that, people would be complaining because he was a tyrant.
Well, and I'll tell you, the office of Secretary of State is staffed by people of every political persuasion. If there was a concerted effort to help out his friends, we would know.
Right.
I can tell you, as someone who has filed a complaint with Secretary of State over a contractor who didn't pay me, the investigation process takes years. And during that time, that person's allowed to operate with their license because they have not had full due process of law.
Do you agree with that?
I don't agree with most licensing requirements.
Right. Well, I just, the ad is called Abuser, which I think is, it's just kind of very much like the Me Too movement for me, where it kind of takes away from the actual, victim, or when you politicize something like this and make it all about Brian Kemp, because if these women actually were sexually assaulted or harassed in these places, then you're making it about a gubernatorial campaign, and I just think that's tasteless.
Well, it cheapens the word assault, just like claims of racism thrown about cheapen the term racist. To try to tie Kemp in with this, and there are plenty of reasons that a Democrat may not want to vote for him, or a Libertarian for that reason may not want to vote for Kemp, and those are fine political reasons not to vote for him. But when you throw around words like assault, words mean things, and obviously they don't mean anything to Stacey's campaign.
Well, in her defense, it was the Democrat Party, but she did approve it, which is a very interesting thing. I've not seen that on any of the other ads for any other candidate. It always says paid for by the Georgia Democratic Party, and then it says approved by Stacey Abrams, which is bold to say. I mean, the Republican Governors Association went after Stacey Abrams for loaning her campaign money when she owed federal taxes, and Kemp completely distanced himself from it and said, "Oh, that wasn't us. That was the Republican Governors Association." So I just think it's interesting that she's staking claim on the attack.
I guess it's just going to shape up to be another ugly ass election season.
Well, I have to wonder what's going to happen in October.
What do you think is going to happen in October?
Oh, I don't know. These are just the Perrys. We haven't gotten into the thrust of October. I mean, this is just drawing first blood.
Right. Well, and I saw where Politico just recently labeled the race a toss-up. It was leaning red, leaning Kemp, but now they've had it as a toss-up. And, they've been wrong before. They said a similar thing, I think, with Michelle Nunn and Senator David Perdue, but it's just, that's not very, for this early for it to be a toss-up, I think is going to cause some publicity problems on down the road.
I really think after the 2016 race and the rise of populism, these polls are essentially meaningless. And I'm not pounding my chest as a right wing or anything else, but the polls were so far off, and they could be. Voters are energized with the populist movement, and we saw that in the primary.
Right. I am pleased that the ads that are put out by the candidates have a little more substance than they did in the in the primary and the runoff. I've been happy to see Kemp talk about policy and not just, as much as I enjoyed the trucks and the guns, and they were hilarious. I'm just glad, because that was a complaint by a lot of people, and so, of course, I've had the opportunity to interview all three candidates for governor so far, and what we're hearing in the media and the headlines we're seeing and the Twitter tidbits are really very far away from the actual policy positions I've heard them speak on. So I'm hoping that they'll continue to try to overcome the rhetoric on single issue things, but I'm not hopeful.
Can I put you on the spot on something about that? As far as your interviews with all three candidates?
Sure, Matt, go ahead.
Like the behind the scenes stuff. Who is the most entertaining?
That's an interesting question. I think Ted Metz is the most entertaining because he had the answers that were so far out of the box and that you weren't anticipating. Like, you're like, wow, did he really just say that? And then you realize that he really believes it, and then you kind of agree. And so it's that's interesting. I was fascinated by Stacey Abrams because I worked in politics, I worked in the legislature, and I never had the opportunity to meet her. And she's been so marginalized on the left that when I was hearing her speak, I was like almost entranced by what she was saying, just because I was hearing it from her instead of someone else. So
right.
From that perspective, I hope that people are, well, I'm not going to even say it because people aren't going to listen and they're going to be mad what she's saying no matter what, just because she has a D next to her name. But I thought it was very interesting and informative. But
yeah, I've heard she's a very, very good speaker.
She is. I mean, she's sitting there telling you how her plan is $350 million for 0 to 3 childcare, and you're like, the way she's saying it, even though you're like, that's a terrible idea, you're like, wow, you make it sound beautiful. Like,
right.
I mean, that's the art. It's an art, but
right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Matt, you're the host.
Oh, I keep forgetting. I'm terrible at this hosting thing. Especially since I haven't read much of these stories.
Well,
okay, so
on the subject, that kind of takes us right into Camp's plan for veterans.
Yes, let's talk about that, because one of his prongs is eliminating state income tax for retired military pay. And so I'm super eager to hear what you guys think about that. So,
Matthew?
Look, there's going to be a whole lot of people that are like, oh, yeah, we should do that. Take care of military people, blah, blah, blah. Man, if you're going to eliminate the state income tax for somebody, you should eliminate it for everyone.
So, Matt, if someone is retired military and they don't pay income tax, which you've said if someone's not paying into the system, if they don't have a dog in the fight, they don't get to vote. So would you advocate for veterans to have their right to vote stripped?
Do they own property? Are they paying property tax?
Just any tax. It's not necessarily...
Yeah, it's not just income tax. It's just, you have to have skin in that game.
Whatever, man.
I'll say, and very few veterans that you encounter now are draftees. We all volunteered. The vast majority of us volunteered and rose our hand. I knew what I was getting into. Matt knew what he was getting into. I'm not a separate class of citizen having served. I don't like the government picking winners and losers. I absolutely support eliminating the Georgia income tax. We certainly have the spending base to do so. It's something that makes you feel good, and certainly something that charges up the guys on the right. And it's a policy version of the pickup truck ad.
Sure.
We get to pound our chest and say, yes, we're doing this for veterans. It is great, but it's something that every citizen should have. I don't think of myself being a protected class because I put on a pickle suit for a few years.
Do you think that's a unique view, or do you feel like most veterans feel that way?
The vast number of veterans I know don't line up for their free dinner at Shoney's on November 11th.
Right.
They don't pound their chest. You may see a sticker on their car that says veteran, or see the tag on the vehicle that says veteran, like I have on mine. But most vets I know don't lead with that information.
Right. Those guys that lead with, they're like, they walk in the room. I'm John Smith. I'm a Army veteran. Pause. Wait for applause. Those guys annoy the crap out of me.
Oh yeah, and hang out at I'm a member of Governor's Gun Club, which has a bar in a gun store. And after sitting there for a while, SEAL Team 6 must have like 20,000 members.
Right. And they all live in Georgia
yes,
now.
And nobody in the Army was ever a cook or admin because they were all operators.
Right.
Well, I hope we don't get away from, veterans being proud and wearing shirts and displaying, I appreciate when people thank them for their service because it is important. But I think it would open the door for something that Casey Cagle, who lost terribly, overwhelmingly, was defeated massively by Brian Kemp on July 25th, 2019. One of his campaign platforms was to give an income tax break to police officers. And, while also simultaneously advocating for a state-mandated pay increase. Obviously, the voters rejected that idea when they rejected Casey Cagle overwhelmingly. I think it was 157 out of 159 counties did not want Casey Cagle.
And Cagle was not rejected over policy. He was rejected over Velcro shoes.
And just the overall being of Casey Cagle.
Yeah, absolutely. And his version of politics. And I don't want to spike the football anymore. He's going away. It's done. But it wasn't pure policy that we rejected.
Dave doesn't want to spike the football. Jessica's still doing the icky shuffle.
But getting back to the point, I hate to say I worry because I don't want people who serve to suffer. But when you open the door for veterans, then you open the door for police, then it's firefighters, then it's all first responders because you can't just do police. And then before you know it, we're right back where we started, which is loopholes for everyone and specific, breaks here and there. And instead of just reforming the code like you were talking about in the beginning, the fair tax, or eliminating the state income tax altogether, we're just creating a bigger web of problems when everyone's supposed to be equitable under the law.
Absolutely, and there is an equal protection aspect to that, to say that if you worked on the railroad for 40 years, we're going to tax the fruits of your labor, but not this guy who worked 20 years with the Army or whatever it is. It's a job. I was happy to do it some days. But it's a job, and under the law, that job shouldn't be any different. And of course, I wear a T-shirt every once in a while. Matt wears his "I'm the Weapon" T-shirt around.
I love that shirt.
Yeah, I wish it fit you.
It does. I have two because the first one didn't.
Matt, weren't you on a diet?
Yes.
Are you still on a diet?
Do what? No, man, I'm still losing weight too. I'm down about 220. Yeah.
I just wondered because he used
No,
to
it was great when Matt was carrying around a few extra lbs. He would wear this "I'm the Weapon" shirt around his rolls. Now this is inner fat guy violence, I assure you.
So, probably because Jessica hasn't seen it, now I'm going to have to describe the shirt. On the front of the shirt, it's got an AR-15, and it says, "This is a tool." And on the back, it says, "I'm the weapon." And it's a grunt style shirt, which is a typical, veteran company shirt. So,
I think the people of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast want you to post a picture on the Facebook page.
Of my shirt?
Yeah.
Of you in it.
Of me in it?
Yeah.
Just the shirt?
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Please. No, seriously. Abort. God.
Jessica, what have you gotten yourself into?
Apparently some more red baboon stuff. I don't know.
And I'll tell you, that was probably the best moment I've heard on the podcast, was the 3 to 5 seconds it took after Matt said red baboon ass while your wheels were turning.
Yes. It was quite a moment. I'm sure it'll make it to the bloopers at the end of the year. So another thing that Kemp wants to do with that veterans plan that kind of piggybacks that I think is more of realistic and something that we could actually see happen is veterans transition centers on the technical college campuses. Whether or not they be used, I think, is a different story, but I don't foresee like a massive cost to that, and it's something that seems actually that could be implemented, so I can appreciate that.
And the fact that it's technical colleges, I like. It really is a great plan to help guys and gals use their GI plan, to use the money they have earned. And that is part of your contract when you sign up is, hey, we're going to, you give us this much time and we're going to take care of your schooling and allow them to pick up a trade that's going to allow them to make a lucrative living going forward. It's absolutely a great plan. I think that's way better than creating a separate citizenry tax-wise as saying, hey, listen, we're going to help you spend these federal dollars that you've earned.
Right.
I agree. I remember when I was looking at schools and whatnot, there were so many advisors, entrance advisors that didn't have a clue how to deal with a guy who was in his late 20s, nearly 30, and was using a pre 9/11 GI Bill. It was, so I hope at least if they do these transition centers that they have that they're staffed with people who are knowledgeable on the process of how it all works. It's very frustrating for me, I remember. So much so that I ultimately went to I went the route of a private college.
Well, there's a great meme that went around. It was the Billy Madison picture of sitting at a kindergarten desk. It said, how it feels using your GI Bill.
Right.
But it is certainly a different experience for a guy or gal who has seen the world, is now 10 years older than every other freshman or more. I mean, some of these folks are coming out after retiring and getting a degree at 40 years old.
Right.
Matt.
Yes.
The outline.
What about it?
Read it.
I thought you were taking it over.
You are demoted. Okay, so Twitter. Trump is getting threatened by Twitter. They're saying, oh, just know that just because you're the president of the United States doesn't mean you're too good to be kicked off for abusive behavior or crossing the line or whatever. So I guess my question for you both is, what is your perspective? I mean, I think we can all agree that private company can do whatever they want, but what would be the blowback of kicking Trump off Twitter? And should they?
Yes, they should. Someone should have taken his Twitter account from him a long time ago.
Should Twitter take his Twitter account?
Here's the problem.
Man, the optics of that would look really...
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, yes, there should be a grown-up in the room with Trump that says, hey, POTUS, put down the phone. And the fact is, what's scary is he doesn't drink. I can respect somebody that gets drunk and says stupid stuff on Twitter and apologizes the next day. But here's the...
That would be way more fun.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean...
Holy crap, if there's not a spoof account of, like, drunk Donald Trump, I'm going to be sad.
Well, you know, Trump changed politics with his populist movement using Twitter to talk directly to the voters. If we're okay, and I'm certainly not advocating any sort of legislation, but as a society, if we're okay with this company, now that their platform has been elevated, and there are people, most people 30 plus, that had never seen a tweet, that were engaged. Twitter now leads the evening news. It's astounding to me that we're in a day and age where the lead story is the president's tweet this morning is XYZ. The thing is he has used that platform to talk directly to the voters. If we are okay as a society with that platform deciding winners and losers, and again, I know that's a theme and things that I say, but that's that platform saying we're going to silence this person and we're going to promote this person. It's problematic. Now, is government the solution? No. Government is the anti-Midas touch. Everything it touches turns to crap.
I mean, you brought up a good point about how, you know, we're constantly talking about his tweets. The media has made this platform because previous administrations and other elected officials are very, you know, talkative on Twitter. There's official White House accounts, but this is unlike anything we've ever seen. But the media is perpetuating the momentum, I think, behind it, because it's not like what happens on Twitter stays on Twitter like most other conversations. Every conversation, every tweet is newsworthy.
Right.
Some of the things you have to respect, and I put air quotes around that, from what Trump does, is he does not back away. Rosie O'Donnell's a pig. Next morning, Mr. President, did you mean that? No, I'm sorry, I didn't. I meant she was a humongous pig. He just doesn't back down. And there's a certain satisfaction in that for the, you know, for the crowds in the arena is to cheer it, because no one has heard, God, I hate to use the word straight talk, but a grandfather from Brooklyn rambling at dinner. And that's what he sounds like on Twitter. And that's really what he is. He's a grandfather from Brooklyn.
I don't know. The only reason I don't have a problem with him using Twitter, and I don't have a problem with anything he says on Twitter. I mean, I don't have a problem that he's saying it. I might have a problem with the actual content, but whatever he wants to say is fine. But I feel like he gives so much momentum to what he hates. Like, he hates the media. Not momentum, criteria, and what's the word? Subject, come on, help me out here. What does he give them? Content? I don't know. He gives them so much to talk about. And then they come back and write negative about it. Like this Politico article that we're talking about. The quote is, Trump regularly uses Twitter to heap abuse on his perceived enemies and at times raises the specter of violence, such as when he tweeted last year that if North Korean leaders continue their rhetoric at the time, they, quote, won't be around much longer.
You know, the way Politico puts that is disingenuous at best.
I agree.
He is the commander-in-chief. He's not creating violence. He has the weight of the world's strongest military at his beck and call. So it's not like I'm saying, Matt, I'm going to come over to your house tonight and rip you out of bed and beat the snot out of you. I mean, he's using it as a bargaining chip. And I understand to a certain degree what he's doing with that. And to my amazement, the relative success he's had with it.
He has been successful. I mean, people know what he thinks and what he wants.
Right.
So.
I don't know. I don't do. Are y'all Twitter users at
I
all?
use it about every 6th day when I remember that it exists.
There may be an account in my name. I have no idea.
I have it because the podcast show has a page, has Twitter.
Then yes,
I
Twitter's
always
great.
Forget to use it. And if it wasn't for this show, I would delete it from my phone because I hate it.
Rude.
But
Rude. Twitter is a different forum, though. There's so much. He's not the only one who has that tone on Twitter. I mean, Facebook, you think the fights get bad there. On Twitter, people they're out for blood. I mean, they'll come find your kids. It's nasty on Twitter. I don't. And they limit how many words. I mean, it's a woman's nightmare. You can only say so much, and then you got to move on.
No, I know, man. 140 characters. I require more than that to be funny.
They've actually expanded.
When does that
a little-
start?
Yeah. So we're going to,
Dave.
since Matt's doing such an outstanding job hosting, we're going to go ahead and move into stupid things kids are doing this week. I'm going to let Dave bring up one of these because he's the one who brought it to our attention when he was auditioning for the show.
You're single applicant.
Wait, I'm sure there's some people who want to know how you got this gig. And I just want everyone to know we put him through a vigorous vetting process. He had to write an essay. And he got, I think, an A-.
And I know you were amazed I wrote it.
I was.
Look, as a business owner, if you can't sit down and write a 5-minute bio of yourself, you're probably not going to be very successful. So I honestly didn't think it very odd after the things I've had to do with Chamber of Commerce, with some of the recognition I've gotten. Yeah, if you wanted a bio, I threw it down on paper for you.
It was phenomenal. I can't wait for it to make its way to the official Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong museum one day.
Right.
You can sign a copy. Memorabilia.
Sign
When
a
you
copy
make
of
it big, yeah, I'll print out an original version for you to auction.
Blackmail materials, more like it.
So, back to stupid things kids are doing this week.
The millennial segment of the week.
Easy. I'm on the line, and Jessica is a millennial.
I am a millennial.
Jessica, I am so sorry. You will never know real man. Good Lord, these children are drinking boiling water. And they are amazed that it damages their face and esophagus.
Yeah, I read this the other day. I was with my parents or my sister or something. I don't know. I was with some family, and I was just shocked at the hot water challenge. I don't know. I shouldn't be shocked. You know, when you think about the Tide Pod challenge or the what was the
Jumping out of car challenge.
Yeah, or pour acetone on you and then light it on fire challenge.
What? What
Do you
happened
not
to the
remember?
ALS Ice Bucket Challenge? That kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean,
What happened to going on dates and doing normal stuff?
Man, I'm telling you, people that have listened to this show know my theory about why kids do stupid things. And I think it's I think it's easy access to porn.
You know what? That is probably the truth, because once I discovered what those girls were hiding, that's all I cared about. Grades be
Well,
damned. Everything else, I did not care.
so where would Paulette fall with this? Because she's pro-teen pregnancy, And this, obviously, I mean, drinking boiling water and pouring it on yourself is not how you land a date.
You know, part of this, though, if you look at it, like, they're pouring it on their friends, too. Like, you know, homie's asleep, and his buddy pours this boiling water on him. I would beat someone's ass.
Whatever happened to
As
just...
soon as my face quit melting
Yeah,
off.
I mean, it used to just be good enough to draw a phallus on somebody's face who passes out. There was no
Right.
need to permanently scar them for life. And you really missed the softball that Jessica threw up about Paulette.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for focusing on the important things in the show.
You know,
We still have 3 months and like 26 days where it's acceptable to do this.
okay, you know, and this is a sidebar, and you can take it out if you want. You know, I announced Brian Dobbs for office, and when I did so, I walked about 3 feet in front of Paulette at a Republican Party meeting to do it. I mean, I stopped walking halfway up the aisles and turned and faced her to do it. And she hadn't said a word to me since, until I ran into her, I think the other day at a Chamber of Commerce function. A governmental affairs meeting at the Chamber of Commerce where I got a casual hi. I mean,
You think she has a problem with you?
that woman holds a grudge worse than my wife.
What are you saying?
I'm married mean.
Paulette, she's, you know, a couple years ago, she asked me if I wanted to work for her during the, as in her legislative office. I said no. And it's probably good, because if I worked for her when she did that porn stuff, I would have been like in my own office wearing a sandwich sign protesting.
And you know, she is the stereotypical Republican that has given the entire party a bad name. That we're all Puritans. That she is the personification of uncool right winger, and that's help we didn't need.
But she honestly believes everything about the stuff she does.
And there's a certain amount of respect that you can have for somebody who is that insane. They,
In most cases.
yeah, they believe it. I mean, true believers. And you know, with my background, it is, you cannot convert true believers. It's very, very, very difficult to do. You can only contain their actions. She's a true believer. I mean, she got on Nutcase's bandwagon, and she drank the Kool-Aid.
Well,
Nutcase would be Chris Severe.
Yes, Chris Sphere.
the only thing, I mean, I feel like the voters did their job. You know, they outed her on election day. Not as overwhelmingly as Casey Cagle was outed, but pretty good job in Paulding County.
Well,
But-
and she's showing up to stuff now that she never did when she was an actual rep.
Well, that's good news, because I have an unanswered question that I want answered before she leaves office. I want to know where she met Chris Severe.
Is the chamber still open downtown?
Matt, that's probably for you.
I have no
Jessica,
idea.
you're too young. The chamber was a fetish club in the 90s that was downtown.
Oh. That chamber.
Lord. I mean, seriously, I want to know where these two dingbats connected.
I am sure that, with whatever that group is that he's with through their legislative affairs office.
That group he's with, he made every group up.
No, I'm sorry. The group that is trying to get all of this passed is also the group that writes the software they're trying to get put on these devices. Did you not ever research it that far? I did.
Did you not ever research it that far? Look, son, it's been 2 years, and my name is still associated with porn on Google. Okay? So
she called me son.
I've done enough.
No, I didn't. I know, and I didn't mean that derogatory. I just Jessica's all offended now. No, because I started wondering back when all this was going on. I was like, why is this dude pushing so hard? He's gonna make money off of this. That has to be why. So I started looking around and trying to find out who the software company was, and there he was, right there on their payroll. So,
well, she also is a full-time lobbyist when not trying to tax our porn. So they probably would have crossed paths somewhere in there.
Right. I don't know. Next time I see her, I'll just ask her to.
Get that on film, if you will.
Yeah, because she's going to just be running up to talk to Matt Lowe anytime she bumps into him.
It's Matt Lowe to you.
Right? I told you I saw her on election night, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah, she was not happy.
And she was kind of in on somebody else's victory party.
Right.
So everybody's celebrating but her.
Yeah, well, you know what? Dan Nolan was there, and he had just lost his school board race, so he was not celebrating either.
He was not celebrating. I'd like to invite you to my not victory party.
Right.
So, speaking back to kids and the stupidity that they're doing. Wasp killer to get high.
Man.
Why? Why? I don't understand.
What was my response when you sent that article to me? Like,
I don't remember. I've sent you a lot of
I
articles.
said, this is what happens when we outlaw real drugs.
And as tongue-in-cheek as that is, we wouldn't have meth if cocaine was affordable. There'd be no reason to make it.
Right. No, man. I think about. Do either of y'all? Did y'all ever listen to Dennis Miller's early stand-up?
No.
Sure.
No. So he had this a bit in there that you could outlaw everything in the world, right? And people, in an effort to escape whatever their reality was, would go out into the yard and spin around in circles until they fell down and saw God. And I don't. There's. It's funny, especially the way he delivers it. But it's so true, because. I mean, wasp killer.
It's alarming. I mean,
what cracked me up were the warning signs put out by whatever anti-gang task force. And one of them was excessive need for privacy. Well, hell, that's being 15.
Right.
excessive need for privacy.
I have to find the exact quote, but it's I mean, these warning signs they're giving parents are pretty much every teen.
It is used by crystallizing the wasp killer and combining it with meth. Good Lord.
Just let the meteor hit.
Right.
You know, we are just fighting Darwin at this point.
Right.
Are we even fighting it? I mean, I feel like... I don't know.
Wow.
So, speaking of kids, something positive for the children. Do you agree with the conversations about possibly starting school back after Labor Day? Our state senators are studying it in all their glory taking time using tax dollars to study school start dates because they want to push it back to September. What are your thoughts? Matt, you have 41 kids. What do you want them? When do you want them to go back?
No, man, I'm down with that. I there's a couple of things that I wish they would do. I remember when I was in high school, they were floating the idea of year-round school, which was 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And I kept hoping that would pass because I wanted those 2 weeks during deer season. But it never did. But I'm all right with that. Run it till September. Stop some of these nonsense breaks. I mean, they've got fall break, winter break, which is not Christmas. Winter break's in like February, and then spring break, and of course summer break now. And they have a lot of days off during the year, but they've shortened the summer down quite a bit.
Well, I'll tell you, and I saw this on one of the state reps' pages. First of all, get back in your box. You have no place telling individual school districts what days the kids should be in school. You know, am I a supporter? Should Paulding County do this? Absolutely. As a taxpayer and as an AC guy, August is the hottest month. We don't have a winter in this state to speak of. Unless I'm trying to sell furnaces, then winter's horrible. We have a very mild winter comparatively. So you're going to take the month with the triple digits, and we're going to run all the air conditionings in all the buildings and then fill them up with kids. And each one of those kids is 98 degrees, just putting off heat. And we're going to run these ACs like crazy to try to cool these buildings in the hottest month of the year. It doesn't make any sense. And I posed this question out to a web page that some of the school board people are on, and I got the standard BS answer, which is it's for the children. I know parents struggle.
Your first mistake was questioning anyone's authority.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a horrible human being.
Right. Well, as long as you understand. But in all reality, I mean, what's good for Paulding County is not necessarily good for Bullock or Evans or Tattnall County down here.
No, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's great for any county down there. It's just not the business of the state government to dictate it.
Right.
Of course, if they're going to wait until it's not 90, y'all would be going to school in like November or early December.
It's a matter of climate averages, and if you're just going to take the hottest month that you have, and you just remove it from the school year. Not to mention the stress on parents to find, like you said, a week in September, a full week in November, 2 weeks in December, another week in February, a week in April, and then they're out in May.
Right.
So, this isn't kind of a tangent, but similar. In Chattooga County and a couple other counties in Georgia, they have 4-day school weeks. And
God, I wish they would do that here.
They have found it, like, their test scores are up. It saves a ton of money. Like, everything that is good is, all their stats are up. We have an All on Georgia Chattooga, and Casey's written about it extensively. But because the Democrats actually implemented it and the Republicans are trying to run for Board of Education seats in November, and their platform is to go back to a 5-day school week. Ironically, Democrats are usually known for wanting like cradle to grave care, and they reduced it to 4-day work weeks, and the Republicans argue that parents don't have things for their kids to do on that 5th day.
Man, that is not like so. Why is that? Why is the government concerned with that? That's almost like like they're admitting that they're a babysitting service.
Right. 100%. And, in these counties, ironically, the market adjusted. The Boys and Girls Club and other 501c3s have all-day activities where parents can take their kids. There's other options that are available because the entire county is on a 4-day, they adjusted. It wasn't just like, oh, a week before school starts, everyone's like, oh yeah, well, actually we're not coming on Fridays. Like, they planned for this and they implemented a structure that wasn't government based, and it's working, and everyone is better. Teachers are happier, kids are happier, they're performing better, but everyone's worried about who's going to take care of their kids.
Well, I'm going to throw out a crazy concept, and you guys may not like it. Educate your own kids. Stop taxing me to educate your kids. Find the school that works with your values and works with your family, and send your children there.
Well, I'm a huge proponent of homeschooling, so I don't disagree. So everyone's always like, we need a tax break for seniors who don't have kids in the school system and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hello, what about the single people?
Well, you send your children to a school 5 days a week, or 4 days in your case down there, and you send them to a state school and expect not to get statists back.
Right. Back in your box.
Back in your box.
Right. I homeschool one of my kids. We used to homeschool them all, and then I don't know, man, they all wanted the experience of school.
Well, Matthew, there's also a limit on how many kids you can have in a classroom to a teacher.
But I only have 7.
Well, you've made up for me.
Right.
So, the last item we have for this week's show is outrage. What are we outraged about this week?
What are we outraged about, or what is just people in general outraged about?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, from the gun-toting community, Levi Strauss has decided that you should not strap a pistol onto their jeans.
Right, and they just started making them with like the stretch fit. They put spandex into the denim, and it made it so much easier.
To inside the waistband carry, absolutely.
Oh yeah, man, it's great.
As if Dick's wasn't lesson enough, here they come. And, why would you want to alienate 50% of your base?
What about the Cowboys?
But clarified, Dick's Sporting Goods. Also, these are our opinions and not necessarily the opinions of all on
There
Georgia.
goes that sponsor. Yeah, I was so careful to step around drawing on somebody's face.
Right?
I don't understand. I mean, I support a corporation having political views, but why? Why would you want to? Why would you want to put yourself in the middle of controversy?
I think Michael Jordan, and I don't have the exact quote, but they were asking him about politics. And he said, essentially, I don't want to get into it. Republicans buy shoes, too.
Are you sure that wasn't Casey Cagle? I kind of feel bad, almost, about how much we blistered him this week, but not really. It still feels so good.
Well, just like the Paulette comments, you have several months where he's still a public figure.
Yes.
Right.
But, as a CEO, you can make as much money as you want. And you can take that money that you have earned and give it to any cause you want without involving the corporation. Because the corporation predates the CEO. And Levi Strauss's case, well over 150 years before. And unless he absolutely kills it and puts people out of work, it will last another 150 years. Shut up. Make your blue jeans. Get back in your box.
You know what I don't like about Levi's is that they put the measurements on the back of the pants. Who wants that?
What are you complaining about?
I'm just saying,
Hey.
I'm not going to wear a pair of pants that's like, oh, these are my fat pants. I mean, someone's like, oh, she's wearing the 27s this week, so something's going on.
Yeah, mine are measured in feet. I actually did. At some point in my fat shame, I scratched the numbers off the waist.
Really?
Then I just went to Old Navy, and now they're stretchy and comfortable.
Well, I started buying the Wrangler 4-way stretch. Mostly because they're $19 and I'm cheap.
This just got to the gayest fashion blog ever.
No, we still have that time Jonathan talked about doing hot yoga.
So what other company stepped in it? Nike. They stepped in it.
Did they, though?
I don't think they did, because I saw that.
The commercial was...
like the 2-minute long commercial.
Yeah.
That's an awesome commercial. I was like, damn, I want to go buy some Nike stuff now.
So I'm not like easily swayed by commercials in that sense. Like the way that a commercial turns out usually doesn't influence how I buy things one way or the other. But it was a very powerful commercial. I was impressed. And Kaepernick's 7 seconds of 2 minutes?
Right.
And the movie What Women Want with Mel Gibson, they took the Nike commercial out of the end of that movie and just put different stuff on it. They got more mileage out of announcing that Kaepernick was going to be on it than Kaepernick got in the NFL.
Right.
I'm just struggling. I mean, I feel like the outrage that came before we even knew how he was going to be a spokesperson, and there could be more to it. But if this is what it is, I'm not bothered at all. Had they not prefaced it with the photo that they did and the media that came with it, half the people wouldn't even know that was him.
You know what? And the only thing from a sports nerd standpoint is he didn't sacrifice anything he couldn't play. The NFL does not care what your political stance is. They don't care. If you can chuck the football down the field with accuracy, they don't care. There's no owner in the world that says, well, I'm not going to employ that guy. I don't want a Super Bowl. If Tom Brady set the flag on fire, New England would be like, well, that's what we're doing now.
He cries all the time and they still keep him around.
He does cry a lot. They cheat, they keep him. Go Falcons.
Boo. At least you didn't say rise up. Good.
Oh, no. First of all, I can't do justice to Samuel L. Jackson.
That's the dumbest slogan ever for, I don't know, whatever kind of rally cry.
I don't care. Go win football games. Preferably the ones I bet on you.
Well, as I'm sure you're aware, this is coming towards the close of our show. Dave, how do you feel about the first week on the show?
I had a lot of fun. I really appreciate the opportunity. It sounds like a job interview. Well, thank you for the opportunity.
What do you think are going to be your biggest flaws on this show?
Oh, me. I'm a walking flaw. Here's the thing. And I've told Matt this before. You guys didn't know that we went on long strolls together on Mondays listening to this podcast, and I was already talking back to you. You guys just couldn't hear me.
So some might say you've been auditioning this for half your life.
I mean, this is my American Idol. I mean, this is my moment. I mean, I've got tears coming down my face. I'm waiting for someone to come in with a bouquet.
You're R. Kelly Clarkson.
I mean, really, to literally dozens of people.
That's awesome.
So what do you feel like you bring to the show?
Comedic timing. Matt has none. If you'll recall, Matt told me he was going to debate you. And I told him, I said, Matt, when you're losing, and you will because she's smarter than you, I said, say, Jessica, you ignorant slut. Now, how does Matt deliver the line? And I remember this clearly because I was out in a coat. It was cold outside. I was listening to the podcast, working the grill, and you beat Matt on a point. And he's like, "Well, I guess so." Well, a friend of mine said to call you an ignorant slut. Matthew, that is not what I said. I can write them, but I can't deliver them for you, buddy.
Oh my god. Well, unfortunately, Dave, the job we were actually interviewing for was host, and it sounds like, we know it's not going to be Matt.
Right?
So maybe you can come back next week and audition as host.
I kind of had a vision about the host thing, but Matt kind of shot that down with his performance. But it would be a version of the Five where everybody takes a different news story, introduces it. But if you have to give him like a 5-minute lead in a prompt in order to read something that you wrote for him.
And Dave's fired.
I like him. 1-to-1, he stays.
Thanks for coming on the show, Dave. See you never.
Get back in your box, Matt.
Get back in your box, Lowe.
Oh,
Right.
jeez.
Does anyone else have any closing thoughts?
Do you have a closing thought?
No, I think Dave said everything.
Right?
Sorry for hijacking your show.
No, it's cool. I'm glad you came.
You ignorant slut.
You ignorant slut.